Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring the SLA Industries 2nd edition core rulebook. If you haven't seen the other parts of this horror, sci-fi, splatterpunk noir experience, please check out the playlist in the description below. In this part, we are going to take a look at skill rolls. The system of SLA Industries, first and foremost, has been designed to provide a streamlined cinematic gaming experience, so the mechanics are constantly reflecting this. Let's talk about skill rolls. These rolls are used to determine the success or failure of actions being undertaken during the game. There are two types of skill rolls. You have the passive type and the active type. A passive skill roll is not really a roll at all. Rather, it is simply a sense check of the character's capabilities versus the complexity of the task at hand. If the difficulty assigned to the test is mundane, for example, then the task is automatically considered to be a success without the need to roll any dice. In most cases, things will be handled through roleplay, through visualization, through imagining that you are actually there and carrying out the tasks automatically. However, when there is an important consequence to the task, depending on success or failure, or if you are under some sort of pressure, like for example a race against time, then you need to make a roll, even if it's a somewhat normal test. So you have different categories: simple checks, challenging tests, complex actions. All of this during normal circumstances, without risk, without any time constraints. They can be carried out automatically, but you still need to fulfill certain criteria. For example, when it comes to simple tests, the character needs to have at least one rank in the relevant skill, or the character's relevant stat to that skill should be 3 or greater. And in the case of challenging, the character needs at least 2 ranks in the relevant skill, or the character's relevant stat is 4 or greater, and so forth. A passive skill roll does not consider the margin of success and instead assumes a normal success with no remarkable outcome. Now, concerning active skill rolls, they require the player to roll a number of dice and obtain a value, or values, equal to or higher than the target number. This is handled as a dice pool system, but it does have some differences when compared to other dice pool mechanics in other role-playing games. The number of successes will reflect the degree of the overall success or failure of the roll, and all skill rolls that do not meet the aforementioned passive criteria will require an active skill roll. Now let's talk about skill roll difficulty and target numbers. In addition to the type of roll, the game master must also consider how complex the task is. The applicable difficulty of a task will determine the target number for the test between a range of 4 and 16. So for example, a mundane difficulty is an automatic pass, but a challenging difficulty requires a roll of 7 or above, and a strenuous difficulty would require 13 or more. And that's just to give a few examples of the difficulty. It is up to the game master to assign a difficulty to any skill roll that may need to be made. So things could be mundane, simple, challenging, complex, strenuous, or even insane. Concerning the increase of difficulty, the game master should feel free to increase the difficulty of a roll if it makes sense for the situation at hand, such as performing non-combat tasks during a firefight, or trying to do anything with your left hand if you are right-handed. Now, when it comes to unskilled characters, if a character does not possess the required skill, a skill roll may still be attempted. In this instance, the character will only consider the related stat for the purpose of any skill rolls. Depending on how technical the task at hand is, the game master should consider whether the difficulty should be increased by 1 step on account of the character's lack of knowledge. Now, when it comes to making active skill rolls, there are 2 types of dice used during all skill rolls: the success die and a number of skill dice. Let's talk about the success die. This is a die that must be of a different color to all other dice used. You could use a black die for your success die, and the rest could be white or from another color. It's all up to you. Although, if you like using official dice for this game, there is on sale a pack of dice that are custom made for this role-playing game. They are not necessary, but aesthetically they fit the theme. And you also have skill dice. They are used to determine the margin of success of any roll. At most, a player will be required to roll 5 skill dice, and so, to perform an active skill roll, the player must roll the success die plus a number of skill dice equal to the rank they have in the relevant skill plus 1. In this way, a player will roll at most 6d10 at any time, that is the 5d10 of the skill and the single die, which is the success die. Each die is considered independent, you do not add the values together. So how does this work? Maybe you have a skill rank at 2, and you need to make a detect roll. The player will roll a total of 4 dice. You have your success die and 3 skill dice. Because you have a skill rank of 2, remember that is plus 1, 2 plus 1, 3. So you have 3 skill dice in addition to the success die. After rolling the required number of dice, the player should add their applicable skill bonus to each die. If a character does not possess a required skill, then they just add the related stat to each die instead. If the total of the success die is equal to or greater than the target number, then the test is a success. Each skill die that also equals or exceeds the target number represents a higher degree of success and a bigger impact on the task being performed. In the same manner as a successful roll, should the success die be less than the target number, then the result is considered a failure, even if multiple skill dice succeed. Each skill die that is also lower than the target number represents a greater potential for serious failure. Highly skilled individuals are sometimes able to avoid failure due to their significant experience in certain areas. So this is success through experience. If 4 or more skill dice equal or exceed the target number, then the skill roll is considered a success, even if the success die fails. In this instance, no margin of success is gained and the roll is simply considered to be a success, as though only the success die had achieved the required result. The margin of success or failure is used as a measure of how much of an impact the current skill roll has on the task at hand. Significant success or failure can present the game master with an opportunity to progress a story, throw a spanner in the works, or even award a ratings point. And though it is possible to roll more than 4 skill dice, the margin of success only considers up to 4 results, ignoring any additional results. So depending on the number of successful dice that you roll, you could obtain an excellent success, an exceptional success, an incredible success, and so forth. Now concerning failures, unlike successes, margin of failure is not measured by a number of increasing tiers. Instead, there is only one additional possibility beyond simply failing a roll: a serious failure. A serious failure is achieved when all dice being rolled result in a failure. When this happens, the game master should consider the failure an opportunity to hinder the player or the squad, possibly leading to injury, negative reviews from the media, or anything else which might put the character in a tough spot. Though a serious failure should usually be met with significant hindrance, it is also a suitable opportunity for highly skilled operatives to learn a valuable lesson. As such, the game master may choose to award a ratings point when any serious failure involving 4 or more skill dice occurs. In all cases, the game master is the final adjudicator of any bonus or punishment that occurs from a margin of success or serious failure. Now let's talk about advanced tasks. In addition to active skill rolls, some tasks are also considered advanced tasks. Such tasks include anything that will require very specific training, such as stripping and repairing a fusion engine or disarming a bomb. A skill roll should be considered an advanced task if the situation is particularly difficult or if the game master deems it so. Advanced tasks may be undertaken normally, providing the character has a relevant skill of rank 3 or higher, with difficulty being assigned as normal, typically at complex difficulty. In this way, many advanced tasks will not be possible for those without training, unless they have a significant rank in the relevant stats. Now concerning EV-related skill rolls, Ebonite characters have access to EV discipline by expanding their flux capabilities. EV disciplines are effectively skills that are connected to the concentration stat and require the expenditure of flux points to use. There are a number of additional factors that come into play when using EV disciplines. All of those will be covered in a future part where I talk about the EV. Now concerning luck, all non-Ebonite characters have a luck stat instead. Luck is used throughout the game sessions to tip the balance on more complex tasks or those skill rolls that would otherwise be impossible to achieve. Unlike other stats, luck is not a static value and instead represents a number of points that can be spent during the game. A character may spend luck points during their own active skill rolls. 1 point of luck spent after a roll has been made allows rerolling a success die, or rerolling any or all of the skill dice. Or alternatively, you could spend multiple points of luck after a roll to add a +1 modifier to the success die per point of luck spent. Only one of the options are allowed. Multiple points of luck may not be spent to reroll any die a second time. Luck replenishes itself back to the stat maximum during downtime between game sessions. Now concerning fear, while SLA operatives are selected for their hardy nature, not all of them have the grit needed to face the brutal monstrosities that the world of progress has to offer. To represent this during a game, every person, scene and situation is assigned a fear rating. In most cases, this will be 0, representing that even the most timid of characters will not be phased, but sometimes fear ratings need to be considered, particularly in times of danger or stress. As with all rules, the game master and players should not get bogged down with fear ratings. Players are encouraged to not think too much about them, relying on the game master to highlight elements that begin to affect the players. This allows for a much more realistic use of fear. You simply do not know something scares you until you encounter it. There are different fear ratings assigned to different encounters and situations and beings. So for example, advanced carrion, cannibals, violent crime scenes have a fear rating of 1. Dream entity effigies, extremely gory murder scenes, being alone and cornered by a pack of carrion, that has a fear rating of 3. But if you encounter Halloween Jack or the Figment, those have a fear rating of 6, and so forth. In addition to the base fear rating, a number of modifiers can increase the rating, making the impact of the effects of fear appear far greater, or perhaps not as fearsome. For example, if you are in a squad outnumbering the enemy at least 3 to 1, the fear rating gets a -1 modifier. But what if you are outnumbered at least 3 to 1, alone, in pitch black darkness? That would add a +1 to the fear rating. But what if you are badly wounded and lost in the Cannibal Sector 1? Then that would add a modifier of 2 to the fear rating. Now, when it comes to making these fear tests or fear rolls, during narrative play, whenever the total fear rating of any given circumstance becomes higher than a character's cool stat, or at any other time that the game master deems it suitable, then the character is required to take a fear test. During a combat situation, in order to keep the action rolling, the need for a fear test should be checked during the first initiative phase of the combat. After any required fear tests have been resolved, the need for further tests should only be made if there is a significant change to the combat situation, such as the arrival of a combatant with a higher fear rating, or if the game master deems the events of the encounter to be truly horrific. In this way, combatants can be considered either affected or not affected by fear for the duration of the combat without needing to interrupt the action. To make a fear test, a character must roll the success die and add their cool to the value rolled. A fear test is considered successful if the total result is 10 or greater. If the roll is a success, then the character has overcome the fear and may continue to act as normal. They are not required to make another fear test for the same threat or situation again during this game session. If the roll is 9 or less, then the character is affected by fear until the threat has been removed, or the character has been removed from the situation, and at least 1 hour has passed. The effect of fear is determined by the fear rating that forced the test. You have different effects, so your character could be afraid, petrified, terrified. In lesser cases, you only apply a minor modifier to your dice rolls. But under greater fear effect, you could get an even greater negative modifier, even a modifier to your cool stat, and maybe you get a phobia. Players are expected to roleplay the effects of fear, drawing on their personal experience of being afraid and ensuring their characters act accordingly, with trepidation and hesitation at the forefront. Players that do not act afraid should find themselves at the mercy of the game master, who will inevitably make their characters even more terrified. So this is going to be quite therapeutic. As you can see, the skill rolls have a good combination of grittiness and cinematic action. There's going to be a good variety, flexibility, and granularity when it comes to the degrees of success and failure, but you still have concrete and clear results. They are colored by the skill dice, resulting in greater success or challenges. Thanks for watching this part of the review, and thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you. In the next part, we are going to take a look at combat. See you later.